Hey guys, Zen here, and today I wanted to bring you guys my thoughts on crouch spamming in Rainbow Six Siege. This has been a topic that has really caught fire recently, and I think it's because we're in a bit of a divide with the game here. I think there's one half of the community that wants to play Rainbow Six Siege really tactical, in a full 5 stack, being really communicative, making plays, all those kinds of things. And then I think there's another half of the community that's really focused on aim and being really aggressive in the game, and crouch spamming almost serves both audiences. So one of the biggest tips that I can give to some of you newer players out there is anytime that you go to double or triple peek, you want to change your positioning. And this is where I personally use crouch, and this is how I like to kind of spam it in the real game world sense. So basically, if I'm in a gunfight with my opponent, we're both kind of holding angles, pre-firing, I'll make sure that when I back out and go back into cover, that when I come back out, I'm crouched. And this makes it really difficult for them to line up the headshot and be really accurate on you because you've dramatically switched your positioning. You've gone from standing up, they were already lining up your headshot, they already kind of knew where to pre-aim, and then now you've re-peeked and you are crouched. And then if I go back into cover and I come back out, I'll be standing again. Now, I don't consider that crouch spam, and to be honest, I think that that's the most tactical and most real-world sense of using crouch in the game. I think when we're talking about crouch spamming, people are referring to when someone is just mashing the crouch key in some sort of attempt at trying to make it difficult for you to get the headshot and make it very hard for you to remain accurate on them as targets. Now, when people do that, I don't think that they realize that they're actually putting themselves at a couple of disadvantages. So the first thing is that they're adding a random variable of positioning that doesn't need to be there. At the highest levels of play, I think any pro will tell you that it becomes all about holding angles and pre-firing. When you're adding those extra layers of randomness like crouch spam, you're turning a corner and just constantly crouching, you're not only making it really difficult for you to stay on target, but you're making it really easy for someone who doesn't have the best aim or someone that's kind of aiming all over the place to just get a random headshot on you. And that's definitely an element of crouch spam that a lot of people don't necessarily think of when they're doing it. We've also learned that it doesn't technically give you any sort of competitive advantage in the game either. It's not as if it increases or decreases your ping. It doesn't send your character's frame all over the place. It's literally just going from one animation to the next over and over and over again. Now, one thing that I think is really important to mention here is crouch spamming's effect over on console. And it actually has a lot to do with the keyboard and mouse use over there. So I'm sure the entire community is aware by now, but over on console, keyboard and mouse use is a pretty big problem, and it makes things like crouch spam even more of a problem when you have some part of the community that's using keyboard and mouse while everyone else is using controller. So they have a lot more buttons and keys at their disposal. They're aiming with a mouse, and it makes things like this for them a lot easier to do, which makes being competitive really difficult. Now, to combat all of this, I've heard a lot of people calling for a crouch nerf. Essentially, you wouldn't be able to shoot while you're crouching or during the animations, and of course, if you tried to, it would make it a lot more inaccurate. It would make it a lot more difficult for you to pull off. Now, a few seasons back, we actually had the ability to drop shot in this game. You could effectively go prone and remain on target, remain ADS, and get off some pretty crazy plays by drop shotting your enemy. And I think a lot of people in the community just came together and gave Ubisoft the feedback that it wasn't tactical, it didn't make any sense in the game, and so Ubisoft removed your ability to do so. You can still drop and shoot, but you can no longer remain aimed down sight while doing so, and it actually takes a split second before you can actually get back on target. But now that drop shotting is removed from the game, people have fallen back onto both quick peeking and crouch spamming as a way to make it more difficult for you to actually hit them. Now, the biggest question is whether or not crouch spamming should be allowed in the game or if it's an actual exploit, and in my opinion, just being honest, it really isn't, guys. So I think in a game like this, people are gonna do whatever they can to try to get the smallest advantage over you. Over on console, they'll bring things like keyboard and mouse or SCUF and Elite controllers, and everywhere else, they'll try to quick peek, drop shot, or crouch spam as a way to, again, get that upper edge on you and make it difficult for you to remain on target. But in a game like Rainbow Six Siege, where knowledge is king and being disciplined and being patient and trying to wait for the best positioning to open yourself up for kills, that's going to be the best way for you to always get that upper edge on your opponent and to always always be the better Siege player. In my opinion, I look at each one of these things as a gimmick, and at the end of the day, only a certain kind of player is going to focus or revolve all of their gameplay expertise around small little skills like this. If you're someone who's really good at crouch spamming or really good at drop shotting, sure, on one-to-one gunfights it may give you an edge, but if you're facing someone on a map that you're not super familiar with, you don't understand the objectives as well as they do, and they have the overall better positioning and better thought out plan than you do, then 9 times out of 10 you're going to lose anyway. So again guys, I look at crouch spamming, drop shotting, quick peeking, all of that stuff as gimmicks and as things that people are going to do regardless, no matter what kind of nerfs or buffs come to the game. People are going to try to find these kinds of exploits and use them against you. But I don't think that even in a super tactical game like this, when someone does something really gamey like quick peeking or crouch spamming, that Ubisoft should just completely remove the ability out of the game. Drop shotting's a little different game to game, and I think Ubisoft just didn't want to send the message that this was the kind of game that drop shotting was allowed, and that super twitchy kind of gameplay style isn't really what they're going for here. But to be honest with you guys, anytime that I've come across any serious case of crouch spam, it's typically in the lower of ranks, and they're really betting on that random variable that you miss every single shot and that they get lucky and hit you in the head on their way going up or down. And that's really the only thing that they can bet on reliably with a tactic like that. It's almost impossible to accurately predict how a gunfight will go when you're sitting there mashing a key, or even when you're quick peeking to some degree. When people quick peek and they start shooting at you, they typically have no idea where you are, and they're waiting for that split second when you do start shooting where they can kind of track your bullets and aim at your head and hopefully get a lucky shot. To wrap it up, I think that the knowledgeable and tactical Siege player will always be the better player over someone who relies heavily on things like crouch spam and quick peeking to get their kills. At the end of the day, Siege will teach you its rules, and it'll be up to you to take your knowledge and your understanding of those rules to the next level and to become a better player. But if you're someone who is dealing with constant crouch spam, the best advice that I can give you is to try your best to aim mid-level. Try to aim at their gut, if anything, because on their way up, on their way down, their head's going to be passing through, and they're really going to have no choice but to either hold the angle and face you 1v1 or risk being headshot completely randomly. And again, at that point, it is just a matter of randomness. So I don't think that Ubisoft needs to rush and do anything about it right now necessarily. I don't think it's that widespread of a problem to where everyone is doing it and everyone's getting kills because of it. But I do think that you should know how to crouch effectively in the game. And I think that if you are using it properly, it's a good tactic and a great way for you to increase your skill in the game. But that's everything, guys. Those are my thoughts on crouch spamming in Rainbow Six Siege. But of course, I want to hear from you. What do you guys think about this tactic in the game? Do you think that Ubisoft should nerf this ability in the game, or do you think that it's fine where it is? Let me know everything in a comment down below. If you did enjoy this video, please drop a like and subscribe with notifications if you're new. With that being said, it's been Zen. Hey, I'm out.